The kingdom holds a frightening secret. Deep under the castle is the Well of Monsters. While the monsters are dangerous, the castle acts as a sort of cork to contain them. In turn, the cold air from the well keeps the castle walls nice and cool. It's a win-win. Except the monsters are expanding. At every hour, there are more monsters than ever before. Soon, the castle won't be enough to contain them all. The monsters' numbers need to be culled. In Gilded Eternal, you play as the Gilded Knight, called in to destroy monsters with the aid of the king, who, of course, stays at a safe distance. As the Gilded Knight, you are unarmed. Monsters chase you, and to defeat them, you lead them into the king's hand where they meet with a crushing end. This episode of the Devlog is about how I designed monsters for Gilded Eternal. At the very core, monsters and other enemies in games are a test for the player's mastery over the gameplay mechanics. In Super Mario, Goombas test the player's jump timing and landing accuracy. Flying Koopas do the same thing, but with more risk. Hammer Bros add in an obstacle to further test the player's jump control. In Gilded Eternal, the player lures monsters into the king's hand. Every monster in the game tests the player's ability to do that. Early in development, there were 3 main monsters: the skull, the ghost, and the snake. The skull is the base monster. If I could only have one monster in the game, this would be it. The skull just straightforwardly chases the knight. The ghost asks for more movement control from the player. It is, in part, a reference to the Boo from Mario, but it's also a great inversion from the skull. When the player is facing the ghost, it runs away. When the player is facing away from the ghost, it chases. The snake follows the player like the skull, but the spin is you can't see the snake until it attacks. These are 3 tests on the player's main method of dealing with monsters: luring. After a while, I got bored of only having 3 monsters, so I decided to design some more. I sat down and tried to think of every possible spin on luring that I could. In total, I now have 9 monsters. Here are some of my favorites. The blowfish is fun because it moves just like the skull, only slower. The twist is that the blowfish shoots out a bunch of bullets. These bullets are something the player can't stop, only dodge. They are a moving platforming challenge for the player. The bullets also shoot in random directions, so they don't raise the difficulty too much. See Mirrorfish for a harder version of this. The spider is one of the tougher enemies. Instead of chasing you around the room, it locks onto your position and matches your movements. My favorite is the sleeper, because it completely flips the challenge. Instead of avoiding the monster while leading it, you need to pick up the sleeper and carry it to the hand. Do it quick though, because the sleeper explodes if you take too long. After designing a monster, I needed to decide where to put it. There are 4 rooms. The first 3 rooms have 3 monsters each. The first room is the basic mechanic test room. Each monster just chases you, with the blowfish adding random bullets and the jet moving quickly, but drifting. The second room is the mind-bending room. It's probably the hardest. The ghost and mirrorfish both move in ways that really test your control of movement. To balance this out, I put the sleeper here because it stays in one spot until you touch it. The third room is the spookiest. The snake and the spider are both sneaky, and if you're not watching, they could surprise you. And so I added the loudest, most distracting monster to this room. The fourth room is the real test. Any and all monsters can appear here, so the player needs to test their skills against all of the different possible combinations of monsters. Monsters are one of the best ways to challenge players. In my mind, a perfect monster is a unique test of the player's mastery over a specific skill. Jumping, shooting, dodging, slashing. No combat mechanic is complete without a monster to use it on. If you watched all this way, I love you. I would propose if I only knew your ring size. Listen, I know everyone says this, but if you would like and subscribe, that would be such a huge help. But even more helpful is if you could click the link down in the description and wishlist Gilded Eternal on Steam. They say you're supposed to have like 10,000 wish lists before you release your game. I have like 250. So please wishlist. Tell your friends. Say, hey, there's this cool new game. I think you would like it. You don't have to think they would like it. Just tell them they should wishlist it. Wishlist it. Anyway, wishlist it, please. Goodbye. Thank you. See you next time.